Today we're talking about Rosa Luxemburg, who was, without a doubt, one of the most brilliant and influential thinkers in the entire history of Marxism. She was a true revolutionary. Her ideas and her fierce, uncompromising spirit have been making waves for more than a century. This right here is probably her most famous quote, and honestly, it gets right to the absolute core of everything she believed. For Luxemburg, freedom wasn't some kind of gift from the state. It was the very air a truly socialist society needed to breathe to survive. So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll race through her incredible life. Then we'll get into the weeds on her big arguments about reform, capitalism, and what democracy really means. And finally, we'll ask the big question: why does she still feel so relevant today? To really get her ideas, you have to understand the world she came from. We're talking about a time of collapsing empires, revolution bubbling just under the surface, and just constant, relentless political struggle. And make no mistake, she was an absolute force to be reckoned with. Her own colleague, Franz Mehring, called her the most brilliant mind to follow Marx and Engels. And that really captures her power, right? She wasn't just some academic. She had this incredible combination of deep theory and sharp on-the-ground activism. For her, ideas were weapons. Her life was just a total whirlwind. She was born into a Jewish family in occupied Poland and was basically a revolutionary since she was a teenager. She had to flee to Switzerland just to study. Then she moves to Germany and climbs the ranks of the massive Social Democratic Party. But, and this is key, her principles forced a huge break with them when they supported World War I, a path that tragically ended with her murder in 1919. And that life of struggle, it led directly to her first major intellectual showdown, a debate that would pretty much define the future of the entire socialist movement. So here's the breakdown. On one side, you have this guy, Edward Bernstein. He's arguing that, hey, capitalism is actually getting more stable. We can just slowly, gradually reform it into socialism through elections and unions. But Rosa, she argued that was a complete fantasy. She believed reforms were absolutely vital, but only as a kind of training ground to get the working class ready to eventually take power. Because for her, the deep crisis of capitalism made revolution inevitable. This quote just nails it. She's saying, look, Bernstein isn't just picking a slower, calmer path to the same destination. No. He's choosing a completely different destination, one that basically makes peace with capitalism instead of trying to overthrow it. This conviction, that capitalism was doomed to crisis, led her to what is probably her most original and important idea, a totally groundbreaking theory of imperialism. You see, she started with a puzzle she felt Marx hadn't completely solved. Think about it. In capitalism, workers get paid less than the total value of this stuff they make. So who buys all the extra goods? How does the system not just collapse? How do capitalists keep finding new profits? Her answer was stunningly direct. She argued that capitalism is like a shark. It has to constantly move, constantly expand outwards, or it dies. It invades non-capitalist parts of the world, shatters their local economies, and turns them into new markets, new sources for raw materials, and pools of cheap labor. This whole process isn't some accident. It's the system's lifeblood. And when powerful nations start competing for these territories, well, that's what leads directly to militarism and war. So for Luxemburg, the apparent peace and stability you might see in a European capital was directly paid for with violence, exploitation, and chaos somewhere else in the world. Colonialism and racism weren't just unfortunate side effects of capitalism, they were essential cogs in its global engine. Okay, let's jump ahead. When the Russian Revolution kicked off in 1917, Luxemburg was watching with both incredible hope and some really sharp criticism. Her main worry was all about that fragile link between a revolution and real democracy. And here you can see two totally different visions clashing. You've got Lenin, who put his faith in a small, disciplined, professional party to lead the masses. But Luxemburg was deeply afraid that would just replace one elite with another. For her, a revolution had to be the spontaneous, creative, democratic, and messy act of the people themselves. A bottom-up explosion, not a top-down command. At the end of the day, socialism without democracy was simply unthinkable for her. They were two sides of the same coin. You couldn't have one without the other. The point of a revolution wasn't just to swap out one set of bosses for another. It was about the masses learning, through struggle, how to finally rule themselves. And this was her stark warning to the Bolsheviks in Russia. She basically said if you start shutting down basic democratic freedoms, free press, free assembly, free elections, even if you have the best intentions, the revolution itself will wither and die. All you'll have left is a bureaucracy ruling over a population that's just fallen asleep. So that brings us to the big question. Why are we still talking about a revolutionary who was killed over a century ago? I think it's because her ideas don't feel like dusty old history. They feel like a diagnosis of what's happening right now. Just think about it. Her critique of global finance and endless crisis feels like she could be talking about the 21st century. Her work connecting imperialism, racism, and exploitation, that's at the very center of today's biggest social justice movements. And her passionate defense of real democracy against authoritarianism from all sides is as inspiring as ever. This was her famous stark choice. She wrote it in a pamphlet from a prison cell during World War I. For Luxemburg, humanity was standing at a crossroads. The deep contradictions of capitalism were pushing the world in one of two directions, either toward a new, higher form of social life, socialism, or into a complete catastrophe of war and chaos, barbarism. And that leads us right to our final thought. When you look at our world today, with all its own crises, its own conflicts, does Rosa Luxemburg's ultimatum, socialism or barbarism, feel like some relic from the past? Or does it feel more like a choice that we're still being forced to make every single day?